Jandal's attorney at law. She won't take no for an answer. You tried to collect, but you were denied your Social Security disability. The bills are piling up, you don't know where to turn. Get the money you deserve.
All right, everyone, we are live today doing question and answers for Social Security disability. And we're here with Lauren Ward, who has been with us for quite a long time. Lauren, how long have you been with Jandal's Attorneys at Law?
August 3rd will be 7 years.
7 years,
Yep.
wow. And what is your current role here at the firm?
I'm the training manager, so I train in both Social Security law and Veterans law, and I'm also the operations manager of our VA line of business. I'm licensed as well in Social Security disability too.
So you're like a non-attorney rep too, is that correct?
Yep,
Great.
I am.
And you're teaching a bunch of people about that right now as well.
I am. I have 4 students, if you will, 4 employees that are getting ready to take the non-attorney rep test on May 24th. So excited for them. So I'm taking them through a lot of training to prepare for that test.
All right, looks like we have a couple of live viewers. We're actually up to 3 right now. That's great. If anyone has a Social Security question, please be sure to pop it in. We'll be happy to review it and possibly answer it here live on the air. We have a few ahead of time that we're going to go ahead and read through because a lot of our great fans have written in, and they've actually got some great questions already.
Yep.
The first one comes from George T. Sayer. He's one of our great Facebook fans. He's always liking and commenting. He's a great fan to have. He actually had a really good question. He goes, how does SSDI work if you get it in one state? So if you're approved in one state, but then you move to another, do you have to change anything or reapply?
Not at all. And George, that is an awesome question because it's a common question. We get that all the time. And so thank you. We're a fan of you too. So George, you don't have to reapply. Just make sure that you update the Social Security Administration of your new address, because even after you get your disability benefits, many times they're going to still send you correspondences in the mail. So you want to make sure that they have your new address. The same as if you change bank accounts. If you move to a different state and you move bank accounts, make sure that you also update them on that bank account too.
And speaking of like changes of address, that's something that no matter what, even if you're not approved yet, it's something you want to keep your representative in mind of, correct?
Yes. Yeah. So even during your claim, you're going to get forms to fill out. You're going to get things from our office as well. If we're representing you, just notify us of your change of address and we'll submit all of that for you. If you don't have a representative, same thing though, but you want to contact your local Social Security office and give them that change of address.
Awesome. Once again, guys, if you have any questions, feel free to submit them while we're talking. Mark Tate, another fan of ours, had a great question. It's probably the most popular question you'll ever be asked. And I think almost everyone asked this question, but it's a good question. How long does a Social Security case take?
That is the golden question, Mark, and thank you so much for asking it. So Social Security cases take a very long time for most applicants. There are multiple levels to your case. And the first level, and I'll just talk to them in a way of just referring to them as levels. That's probably the easiest way to refer to them. So the first level of your case, which is right after you apply for disability benefits, that can take about 3 to 6 months for them to make a decision. That's a state agency. Most of the time, you are denied, unfortunately. And if you go to the next level and file an appeal, it goes back to that same state agency, which is another 3 to 6 months. So right there, you could be looking at 6 months to already a year waiting for your case. And these are averages. So I want everybody watching to know that from state to state, it makes a big difference because of the amount of claims that are actually processed every day and applications that go in. So the third level, this is the first time, if you get denied at that second level, this is the first time that you have a chance to request a hearing with an administrative law judge. And the unfortunate part, and this also varies a little bit state to state, but it can sometimes take 18 months to 24 months. And it does vary. And the way to look at this is your local Social Security offices, most states, and just about every town that that you have in a state has their local Social Security office, right? But As far as the hearing offices go, where these judges hear the cases, there's only a couple in each state. So there's not as many offices, meaning there's not as many staff members, and there's only a handful of judges for the hundreds of thousands and million claims that are being filed every year. And so that's what takes them so long. So there's just such a huge backlog of cases and only so many people to hear them. And at this point, we're already sometimes 2 years, if not more. And as you move up into higher courts, those time frames can expand things even more. So minimum, you could be looking at 1.5 years to over 3 years, again, depending on how many appeals that you file and what level you get to.
Awesome.
Great question.
Yeah, Mark, thank you so much. Kim, thank you for sharing. We appreciate everyone sharing our live feed here and getting the word out. So
yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Kim.
Perfect.
Now, Lauren, this comes from your biggest fan, me. I actually have a question.
Yes.
Because my background's mostly VA, and I do a little bit of Social Security stuff
Sure.
too, but DDS has always been something that just throws me off. So
Yes.
what is DDS? I'm sure some of our fans and clients have the same question.
Yeah. So what is DDS? If you were present on this live call for the last question, I talked about these first 2 levels of a claim and how there is a state agency that's making the decision of whether or not you're disabled. So DDS stands for Disability Determination Section. Sometimes you hear it Disability Determination Services. Same difference, just different name. So when you apply for disability benefits, you're applying with your local Social Security office. They're just making sure you're eligible for the programs, but they're not the ones deciding if you're disabled. That's just your local office kind of getting the paperwork done. Once that's done, your file is going to go to the state agency, and that agency is called DDS. You're going to be assigned a disability examiner, and you can look at that examiner kind of like a case manager. And that case manager, if you will, is going to be the one that's requesting medical records that you put on your application. They're going to be sending you forms to fill out about your daily activities and how your impairments limit your ability to work. They might even send you pain questionnaires or have you fill out paperwork about your work history. And anybody that's going through this process, you know these forms I'm talking about. So I know you're probably cringing, but they're lengthy. They're also going to, in most cases, send you on an examination that the Social Security Administration will pay for, whether it is for psychological conditions or physical conditions. And they collect all of that information, and that's how they make the decision on whether or not you're disabled. And that is your first decision. And again, when you appeal that first decision, your claim will go back to DDS, but you don't have the same disability examiner that's looking over your case. It's a different person. So it goes to the state agency twice in your disability claims process.
Okay, great. Now, this is something that I'm sure a lot of people have issues with too. It's, what's the difference between SSI and SSD?
Okay, so there are 2 basic disability programs. One is SSI, and that stands for Supplemental Security Income. Then you have SSDI, which is Social Security Disability Insurance. Now, one thing that I really want to say before talking about the differences in those programs is that you still have to be found disabled with the same criteria under the federal regulations. So it doesn't matter what program you're applying for, is whether or not you're disabled, that definition is the same. The difference is whether or not you're eligible to even apply for that program. So Supplemental Security Income, or SSI, is an income-based program. So they're going to look at the income that you have in your household, even if you are married and your spouse is working. If you have too much money coming to your home, you might not be eligible. They're also going to look at things that you can turn into cash, like if you have multiple vehicles or if you own pieces of land other than the land that you live on. So if you live in Parkersburg, they won't count that land that your home is on, but if you have a piece of land in Ripley, they will count that against you, and there's a resource limit because they look at it like you can turn that into cash. So that's your income-based program. The SSDI program, that is what is coming out of the Social Security taxes that come out of your paycheck every week or every 2 weeks whenever you get paid. When you look at your pay stub and you see that little SS tax, that's what you're paying for this program. So you have to work long enough and pay Social Security taxes for a period of time to be eligible for that program. So in short, I will say one is income based and one is based on your work history.
Great. Let's give a shout out to Vonda Locklear, who just joined our live broadcast.
Hey, Vonda.
We're great fans of hers as well.
Yes.
Now, Lauren, I actually asked my mom if she had any questions for this because she's actually really excited. She's been sharing it for us and everything.
Thanks, Mom. John's mom.
She wanted to know, and it's a good question because a lot of people have the same question. If you're waiting for SS, either SSI or SSD, can you work during the waiting period?
So you can, and especially if you have a representative, make sure that you are communicating with your representative's office if you are going back to work. So there is an income limit, and if you go over that limit, it's what we call substantial gainful activity. And Social Security will basically say that if you make more than a certain amount in a month, then you're not going to be eligible for benefits in that month. They're also going to look at the type of work that you're doing. So if you have a lot of physical impairments, but you go back to work, even if it's part-time and below that income level, but you're doing, let's say, hard labor or working on a railroad or something like that, they're also going to look at the type of work that you've done and how that affects and impacts your disability claim and your ability to work full-time. So yes, to answer that in short, you can go back to work, but all of that's going to be assessed, and just make sure you communicate that with your representative, and also make sure you're forthcoming if you don't have a representative in telling Social Security that you're working also.
Great. Now, speaking of family, since my mom asked that question.
Love family, okay.
What are auxiliary benefits?
Okay, so if you've ever heard the term auxiliary benefits, these are benefits that your dependents, like your minor children, can get if you are awarded SSDI benefits. So again, that's SSDI, that is not SSI. If you're getting SSI benefits, there are no other benefits that your family is going to be eligible for. But if you are awarded SSDI benefits, and for example, you have a minor child living in your home, you may, and again, it's not a guarantee, you may be able to get a check for that minor child for a certain amount. So there's no really way to say yes or no that you're eligible. There is a family maximum that your Social Security office will look at, and it's dependent on a lot of things: who's in the home, what type of income's coming in, how much your SSDI payment is. But yes, an auxiliary benefit is basically a benefit that's going to a dependent when you're getting an SSDI check.
Okay, great. And thanks to everyone who's tuning in right now. Once again, if you have any questions you want us to answer, please type them and submit them. Here's another one that we explain to a lot of our new clients.
Okay.
The term SGA, what is that, and how does it really pertain to a Social Security case?
Okay, so SGA, that stands for Substantial Gainful Activity. And in order to be eligible for disability benefits, you cannot be above SGA. So there's actually two words in substantial gainful activity that I want to talk about. The word substantial, that is if you're working, that is your, the mental and the physical aspects of your work. You're actually doing the work physically and mentally, concentrating and thinking and all that stuff. Then you have the word gainful, which is you're earning money for that activity. And what Social Security says is that if you are above a certain amount of money when you're working, even if you're only working part-time, you're not going to be eligible for benefits. That's your SGA level. But keep in mind that even if you are, let's say, self-employed, and anybody that's ever been self-employed, and if I have any self-employed individuals on this live video feed, you're probably going, amen, I know. Sometimes you put in 1 million hours a week, but you're not making any money. So even though you're below the threshold as far as the money goes, you're still doing that substantial work. You're still doing that physical and mental work. So you can still be considered over SGA. So SGA stands for Substantial Gainful Activity. And when you first apply for benefits, that's one of the first questions that you are asked. When did you stop working? And if you're still working, how many hours are you working? And are you self-employed? And what are you paying yourself, or what is your employer paying you, so they can figure that out?
Sounds good. We have another question along the same lines that we were just talking about SGA.
Okay.
we talked about, can people work during their time while they're waiting? We've discussed this whole idea recently about the backlog, and it takes a while for hearings to occur. Can you shed some light onto why it takes so long for a hearing to occur?
Yes. So if you weren't on the call earlier, we talked one of our first couple questions, and it was from Mr. Mark Tate. And his question was basically about how long it takes these Social Security cases to run its course. So you can think of it this way as far as the backlog. There are millions of applications in the United States going in every day or every year. And there's only so many people at these state offices and these federal offices. And when it comes to your hearing, every state only has a couple of hearing offices. But just think about how many people live in your state and how many applications are going in. So not only do you only have a couple of hearing offices, you only have a handful of judges. Some states might only have, 10 judges or 12 judges or whatever. So you have thousands upon thousands of applicants and only this handful of people that can listen to your case. And judges travel. Judges travel from city to city listening to cases. They try to alleviate that backlog a little bit by allowing you to have a video hearing, which maybe will open up another day in the week that a judge can hear a case. But a judge is typically going to only hear maybe upwards of sometimes 5 to 6 cases, maybe a little more in a given day, depending on the office and what that judge is working. And so when you're only hearing that many cases, but you have this many people that are waiting for a hearing, that's what takes so long to move through that process. I hope that answers your question.
Yes.
Okay.
Once again, thank you to everyone who's tuning in right now. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to submit them. One thing I want to know is if I have, because we touched on about SSI and land ownership. Now, if I'm applying for SSD, it doesn't matter how much land I own or how many cars I own?
Nope. So the SSDI program, Social Security Disability Insurance, sometimes you'll even hear that program called Title II benefits. That's based purely on your work history. Did you work long enough? Did you pay Social Security taxes? Did you earn what we call work credits in a given quarter? And if you earned enough work credits, then you're going to be eligible for that program. So the income coming into your home from your spouse working, or you own a piece of land down in Ripley, West Virginia, or Charleston, West Virginia, wherever, that's not going to be counted against your eligibility for SSDI.
So if I have 5 Ferraris and I worked my whole life, it's okay. They won't count that against
Well,
me?
I have 6 Ferraris. No, they won't count that against you.
Great, because that can be confusing. A lot of people do ask, will they hold my property against me, or I have like 3 old trucks. Will that affect me in any way? So that's a good question.
Yeah, not for your SSDI case.
Great. Now this is a little bit of a controversial question, but
oh no,
we do get asked this quite a bit, and I think it's something we discuss with all of our clients, because we're always upfront with them. Is will a lawyer drag out my case to increase the back pay?
Yeah, so I've not heard that before. I'm just kidding. I totally have. I do hear that, and I hate that, because it is something, it's a misconception that goes out there. So no, the answer strictly is absolutely not. And it goes completely against our core values. But there's also, if you are an attorney, even if you're a non-attorney rep like myself, we have codes of ethics that we have to abide by. And it strictly states that we can't prolong cases for any reason. And if we do, then we can potentially even lose our license to even help people in Social Security cases. So one, we're risking that. But the reason that sometimes people will think that law firms will drag cases on is because we get paid on a contingency fee agreement, meaning that if you get awarded benefits, you get X amount of back pay. Not always, but normally you're going to get some type of retroactive pay. And we get a small portion of that pay. And so people think, well, the longer we go, the more retroactive pay that the client will get, meaning the more pay that we will get as a representative. And the truth of the matter is we are doing something all the time for your case from start to finish. We are paying employees to request medical records, to review medical records. We are talking to you frequently, emailing you. We are meeting with you from time to time in the office. We're also working with your disability examiner, submitting things on your behalf, helping with forms. So there's a lot of like background work that sometimes you don't know that's happening. And all the while, those are really, if you look at it from a business perspective, those are overhead expenses that we're paying constantly on your case. So the longer that we go, that is the more money that we're actually putting into it. So though on paper it looks like we get a higher fee, the longer it goes, that's more money we actually put into it. So we're not making out anymore. So we benefit if you are awarded sooner, and you're awarded sooner makes it a benefit to you, which is what we want.
And it's a lot different than like an attorney who charges by the hour, which is completely different. Contingency fee plus there's a cap.
Yeah, so that is that's a good point. So in a lot of different types of law, your attorney is charging you by the hour. You make a phone call to them, you're probably getting some type of an invoice that says, hey, we talked for 15 minutes and this is how much that cost you. We mailed you all these things. This is how much that our mailing costs. We don't do that. So our cap for Social Security claims is $6,000. And if you look at it from a perspective of how long your case takes, it can take up to 24 months, if not longer. And so $6,000 for several years of work is not a lot of money for all the amount of time that went into your case. And again, if we don't win, we don't get any benefits. So if we, drug your case out and then end up not winning, we put all the money into it, working very hard for you and not getting anything out. But the cap is $6,000. But I do want to, if I could put like a little asterisk at the bottom of that, there are times when that cap is lifted, but that's only if we have to go to the higher courts, to sometimes to the appeals council or federal district court, because those are a little bit more labor intensive. But that's definitely another lesson in itself. But in general, the cap is $6,000.
Might be a good topic for another video someday.
Yeah, or a blog.
Yes.
Or a vlog.
Yes.
Video blog.
Well, once again, if anyone has any questions, submit them now. We got one more question we want to go through here really quick.
Okay.
What can a person do, like just as an individual who's applying for Social Security, what can they do to help their case out the most?
Treat with your doctors. That is the number one thing. And I can't say enough that I understand that it's so expensive. I know firsthand how expensive medical bills can be. And if for some reason you don't have insurance, how tough that can be. But in a Social Security disability case, the evidence is in the medical records. And so that's number one. Number two is it's so important that you're honest with your doctors. I will raise my hand and say, sometimes when people say, Lauren, how are you feeling? What do I say? I'm good, even if I'm not good. And I know it's embarrassing and sometimes frustrating, and we don't want to share and be open with our doctors for whatever reason. But if you say, yep, I'm fine, but you're really not fine, what's the doctor going to put in his or her notes? They're going to put, patient says they're doing well. And so being open and honest with your doctors, treating with your doctors regularly. You can also keep logs and journals. For example, if you have migraine headaches or seizures, keeping journals where you're documenting the symptoms and the limitations and the frequency in which you're having these issues. That's the probably the biggest thing I can say that's going to help your case. On the administrative side of things, if you have an attorney like our office that's helping you, you don't really have to worry about this part necessarily. But if you are representing yourself, if you're going through this process alone, make sure that you are responding to the administration in a timely manner when they send paperwork to you. You'll notice most everything they send you, they'll put a little due date on it, or they'll say this is due within 10 days of receipt. And they'll deny you if you are not able to get that information back to them of whatever they're requesting. And so make sure that you are having open communications with the administration if you are representing yourself, so that they don't deny you just for being what they call sometimes like non-compliance. That's really important.
And it's also important after you're approved to still get treatment, correct?
Yeah, so sometimes people who get approved, they are under the impression that your disability benefits are going to then just continue for the rest of your life. And the fact of the matter is, unless you have something that's deemed a permanent disability that's not likely going to improve, then the Social Security Administration actually does regular reviews. And you may, and some of you on this live video may have received one of these letters that basically says, hey, we're reviewing your case. Are you still treating? And they're going to look at those updated medical documents and decide, is this person still disabled? And they can, and they will, and they have many times, we see it, of previous clients of ours where they take your benefits away because they've seen medical improvement. So make sure you're still treating with your doctors regularly, and you're still being honest with your doctors, telling them all of these symptoms and limitations that you're having.
Lauren, thank you so much for all of your
You're
input
welcome.
and
This is fun.
Your knowledge today. And
Yeah.
a special shout out to everyone who watched. We actually had several viewers. I was surprised by the turnout.
Oh, good.
And if you're interested in more of these Social Security videos, or Lauren will talk to you about VA, or we can get one of our personal injury attorneys in here, let us know. And if you ever have any questions, please submit them in this video. We'll post it later. But if not, thanks everyone for viewing, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks, guys.